From The Independent, I promise you he won't. Biden says Trump would never accept 2024 election loss. And why should he? We can all see it. You're going to try to do it again, and you want to paint him. And this isn't even like a new talking point, right? They just cycle around the same 6 or 8 random lines of attack, and now they are doing this one again. Well, he's not going to accept if we lie, cheat, and steal again, right? We can all see it. It's clear. And these people can't step out of their weird, brainwashing, dictatorial mindset for one split second and realize that people don't want it anymore. You could maybe get some weirdos to at least ignore this or forgive you for this insanity and vote for you if you had a policy that somebody liked. But that, of course, is a bridge too far. And my name's Eric. This channel is called Report and Opine. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'm absolutely begging you.
I'm begging you, please. Come on, please.
Because the algorithm is a monster. They're really trying to get me to stop, but it's not going to happen. So it costs you nothing, helps me out a lot. If you want to help me out even more and spend a little bit of money, go ahead and buy my book, New York City 2020, Gotham Unglued, on Amazon.com. That link will be in the description. But they say, President Biden is certain Donald Trump will not accept the results of the 2024 presidential race if they mark a Biden re-election. And that caveat, if they mark a Biden re-election, is the same thing as saying if it is completely fraudulent. Those are the same thing. We can all see it.
Nigga, did you know that I can see you?
Even the lefties know, all the quote-unquote young voters, the Palestine people, nobody likes you, bro. So if you were to magically win, it would have to be a revolution. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but all the way back in 2019, when I could see clear as day before Rona that Bo Biden didn't have a chance, so they turned the entire world upside down, told you to mail in these ballots, and started, juking the stats, changing the constitutions in different states, and all sorts of stuff, and then said, oh, well, I can't believe you don't believe us. And they try to write you off as a criminal, right? We see it every single day. They try to turn Orange Man into a criminal because he was shaking his head in the courtroom. But meanwhile, their people are committing all sorts of crimes, and you're not even allowed to notice that. And if you do notice it, they will call you a right-wing conspiracy theorist, of course, because they have no more talking points. They have nothing left, right? I mean, when you're at the point of mutilating children, that's got to be the bottom of the barrel. I don't know if it gets any. Well, let's not even think about it. Quote, I promise you he won't, the president told CNN on Wednesday during a sit-down interview in the key battleground state of Wisconsin, arguing this stance would be dangerous for the country. Bro, it's over, right? There's nothing you can do. You tried to buy votes. You tried to legalize weed. You're pulling all the strings, completely unconstitutional, illegal nonsense that you think might help. And that lets me also know that, of course, you can't win on the policy or on the merits, but you can't even cheat enough to get it past people. You can't only love your country when you win, President Biden said. The president also said in his meeting with world leaders, heads of states privately expressed their fear of another 4 years of Donald Trump, allegedly telling Mr. Biden, you've got to win. Yeah, because there's a lot of weirdo corruption and money laundering and all sorts of stuff at stake. That's why you got women like Marilyn Mosby and Big Shame James and Jack. All of these people, I mean, the list is really quite long. But those are part of the issues. Those are part of the reasons why they're so rabid. Look at California. Look at the nonprofit scams. Those people are all over the place. The Tiffany Hinyards, the Kathy Hochul's, all right, and her Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin, who people rarely talk about, but he was immediately indicted by the feds when he took the position as Lieutenant Governor when Kathy Hochul stepped in for grab-ass Andrew Cuomo. So that is part of the reason why they are so rabid and so insane about quite literally going to any lengths, except for maybe Boeing has done a little bit worse. That's a different story. So they want to maintain this, and now the talk of the town, the talking point of the month or the week is that he's not going to accept the election results, even though he quite obviously said he would if it were honest. But they don't want to add that caveat. They don't want to admit that. They don't want to say, well, he said he wouldn't accept it if it was honest, because they're not planning on playing honest, quite obviously. The Independent has contacted the Trump campaign for comment. In recent days, Mr. Trump has suggested he may once again baselessly challenge the presidential election results as he did in 2020. I mean, who's still there? Who are you preaching this to? Is it for people like me that just want to, I don't know, or like a glutton for punishment and just want to continue to get triggered by the nonsense, the false reality that you guys have set up and foisted upon other people? Who actually looks at this and says, oh, but they don't notice that you guys have been saying baselessly and false claims? And I mean, bro, it's over. You should just cut your losses and start fresh, right? Because I've said 100 times now that even the word Democrat alone is tainted. And look at the difference between 2020 and 2024. You've got people today in the year 2024 basically admitting they voted for Beau Biden and they're embarrassed by it. But in 2020 or 2019, people were getting assaulted for saying they were going to vote for Trump. Or maybe that was 2015, 2016. But in the short span of 4 years, the turns have tabled.
Well. How the turntables.
If everything's honest, I'll gladly accept the results. That's what he said. I don't change on that, Mr. Trump told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel last week. If it's not, you have to fight for the right of your country. Yeah, so he says it right there. If it's honest, but they ignore that because we weren't going to do it honest. We were just begging you to accept the results as we set them up. In the same interview, however, the former president repeated the false claim he won. Oh, yeah, baselessly and false claim. Look, I guess there's still some people out there buying this, but you've lost all credibility, quite clearly. That he repeated the false claim he won Wisconsin in 2020. And you know what's really strange about that? I was actually in Wisconsin on election night in 2020, and I remember when I fell asleep, he was up. And when I woke up, oh, of course, Beau Biden had won. He was amazing. And we got the graphs, all the memes of the 2 a.m. ballot drops. And I also recall seeing several giant Trump billboards, I believe to be privately funded, right? I don't think it was a Trump campaign that paid for these billboards all over Wisconsin. And you wanted me to just believe that the people of Wisconsin wanted Beau Biden, and maybe if they did then, they certainly don't now. I can almost guarantee that. But if Trump doesn't accept the cudgel, if Trump doesn't accept the beating, if Trump doesn't accept the lying, the cheating, the stealing that thousands of people didn't accept and they call them criminals, if he doesn't do that, then it's a threat to democracy. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Claiming he actually won and that all of the things that had been found out vindicate his claim. And Time Magazine came out and said it. They said, oh, yeah, well, there was a secret cabal that fortified the election. We saved you from yourself. No credible conclusion of widespread, and they use these weasel words, widespread. Same thing in California with Governor Greaseball, scumbag, bang your wife, Gavin Newsom, who beat the blackface of white supremacy, Larry Elder, in a recall election. And there was fraud, of course, there's fraud. There's always fraud. We can't stop that. But it's just not enough. Right? But when will it ever be enough? You could find dozens of people and they say, well, that's not enough because we didn't find enough ballots to overturn the election. But it's like, well, what about all the ones that you didn't find? I mean, it's a complete mess at very best. No credible conclusion of widespread voter irregularities has been found in the state across county level recounts, court rulings, a nonpartisan state audit, and a study from a conservative law firm, yeah, and they're always going to say, oh, nonpartisan, right? It's like they're trying to get rid of that judge out in Florida because she's a partisan, even though the case itself is partisan. So you are not a partisan for them, therefore you need to go, which is, again, another grain of sand on the heap that lets us know this is quite literally a civil conflict. Elsewhere during his Milwaukee interview, Mr. Biden provided new details on changing U.S. policy towards supplying Israel with military aid. And we talked about this, right? Obviously, They try to impeach Trump for some. I don't care about Israel. I don't care about Ukraine. I don't care about any of that. But it's the hypocrisy, which I try not to care about and I try to ignore, but they just make it impossible because it's so brazen. It's so in your face. They think you're stupid and they know you're not going to do anything about it. But during his Milwaukee interview, Mr. Biden provided new details on changing U.S. policy towards supplying Israel with military aid. So he bowed to the mob. Is that what you're saying? Which makes perfect sense because I think those protesters and that mob have been employed, and the New York Post has reported they've been employed by, some global entity that shall not be named to make the president move further left, if even possible, or make the president's handlers move even further left, and it seems to be working. The United States won't supply Israel with offensive weapons for use in a ground offensive that endangers the Palestinian civilians who've taken shelter in the border city of Rafah, the president said. The president insisted the ongoing Israeli operation in Rafah now has not been focused on the kind of population centers that would cross the U.S. red line on military aid. So I don't. It doesn't even matter. They switched to Israel or whatever. I thought this was I guess it was an article about Bo Jiden letting you know that we are going to, we're going to engage in some funny business, and Trump's not going to buy it. And when he says, I will buy it if it's honest, they say, well, we didn't say anything about honesty. And here's a little bit more proof. They all got the memo. They all got the talking point. George Stephanopoulos has said the same thing. I have that clip pulled up as well. I made an entire video about one single interview of George Stephanopoulos complaining that Donald Trump wasn't going to accept, our slimy, deceitful, manipulative ways. But it's worth looking at once again now together with this new article and this lady from Meet the Press.
Critical point.
President Trump himself said he expects this election to be fair, he expects it to be honest, and he expects to win. That's what the presidential candidate should expect, and I expect the exact same thing. And frankly, the American people agree with him. This is an issue that is not an issue, so I'm not going to make it an issue.
Well, Senator, will you commit to accepting the election results of 2024? Bottom line.
Yep, bottom line. I'm not going to add the caveat if it's honest or if it's on the level. Just, are you going to accept it? Because we're planning on working something out, and we need to get you on board with this level of corruption.
At the end of the day, the 47th president of the United States will be President Donald Trump, and I'm excited to get back to low inflation, low unemployment.
Yeah, but if he's not, and we figure out a way to make sure that he's not, are you going to bow to those demands?
Wait, Senator, yes or no? Yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter who wins?
No, not no matter who wins. It is if it is on the level, if it is honest. But she's clearly substituting if it's honest for even if our guy wins. That's what she means. And last one from George Stephanopoulos, corrupt Clinton fixer, now pretending to be a news reporter on ABC. And we won't rehash all of the corruption because there's just not enough time in the day to deal with this lizard man. But he got the talking point 6 days ago, it says here, depending on what day you're watching this. But he knows that I need to ask these people if they are going to accept the results of our corruption. And they're going to try to scare you into believing that Trump's a dictator because he said he's not going to accept what we do to you.
Donald Trump repeating lies about the 2020 election.
And there we go. Same thing with the Independent article. Well, baselessly claimed, falseless claims. Those are things that you said. And for anything to be true is just for it to come out of your mouth.
And refusing to commit to accept the results if he loses again in 2024. Chief Washington correspondent John Carl has the story. Good morning, John.
Good morning, George. And a reminder of what happened in 2020, Donald Trump is once again refusing to say whether he will accept the results of the presidential.
But he's not. He literally didn't refuse. And they're going to. So they put all of these fake, false framing narratives in the title. And then the first quote they use, he says, if it's honest, I'll accept it. But they don't like that word honest because they know it's not going to be, or they would like it not to be.
Election, and he is suggesting there could be violence if he loses.
No. And then they're trying to manipulate the bloodbath hoax. I mean, I guess I'm so deep in I can't tell, but are there really still people out there buying this? Like, even the top comment here, he's ahead in all the polls, so what does that tell you? I don't really know what that means, but these people are really quite scared. And if anybody liked Joe Biden, if he were on the verge of winning, then it wouldn't be so drastic. We can all see it. It would be neck and neck. There would be a little, but dude, there's dozens, hundreds, thousands of videos of people of all walks of life. The Chick-fil-A versus the Sheetz, right? We can see it. We can see clips of both factions of weirdo lefty protesters and Trump loyalists both chanting FJB. But you want us to believe that Joe Biden is so popular, he's going to win, and when he does, Trump won't accept it? Is that your scare tactic?
Donald Trump is making it clear he is only ready to accept the results of the election if he likes them.
Nope, that's not what he said. He said if it's honest. And they keep, several times now, have completely ignored that word, if it is honest.
Telling the Milwaukee Journal, quote, "If everything's honest, I'll gladly accept the results."
Okay, so they had to quote him. They couldn't say it was a quote and then use different words. They had to quote him, but whenever they are referencing what he said, they say if he wins, not if it's honest. Which are, I mean, they are one and the same, and they're just using the other word.
I don't change on that. If it's not, you have to fight for the right of the country. In another recent interview, Trump dismissed the threat of violence by his supporters, saying, quote, "I think we're..."
So they've already backtracked on two of the main talking points, is that he said he's not going to accept it, even though he said he would accept it if it is honest. And he said there could be violence. Oh, but then he also said, well, I don't think there's going to be violence, right? And the manipulation, the framing, I would genuinely like to speak to somebody who is believing this. I mean, I can't get in that headspace.
"We're going to have a big victory, and I think there will be no violence." He suggested the lack of violence depends on who wins. "I don't think we're going to have that. I think we're going to win." But
Which is wrong for the record, right? Like, the left, we all know, we all remember the summer of love. I remember in 2020 being in Wisconsin, everything was boarded up. Even the state capitol was boarded up because they had just gotten through with so much, peaceful protesting. And we all know what side that's coming from, but they just want to gaslight you. And I mean, quite literally, they live in the backwards, bizarre world, and they want to force regular people to live in that too.
he added, "And if we don't win, it depends. It always depends on the fairness of an election." And in a speech overnight in Michigan, Trump recounted how he did, in fact, ask the Secret Service to take him to the Capitol on January 6th. In an interview not long after the attack on the Capitol, Trump told me that if he had gone during the riot, he would have been well received.
I was thinking about going back during the problem to stop the problem, doing it myself. Secret Service didn't like that idea too much. I could have done that, and you know what? I would have been very well received.
Trump's comments about the possibility of violence echo something that his former chief strategist, Steve Bannon, told me as Trump was preparing for this presidential run. I asked Bannon if he was worried about violence.
Yeah, okay. Look, we all see it. I don't even know why they would want to continue to bring up violence, because that's all coming from your side. And these people wouldn't for one split second be able to handle an interview with somebody on the opposite side of the aisle. And obviously there's no such thing, even at this point, there's no such thing as a political disagreement. It is quite literally an ideological disagreement and a battle between good and evil. And I guess this is becoming sort of a running theme on the channel, but it is clear now, all of these little incidents, all of these weird little situations make it crystal clear that we are undoubtedly in a civil conflict.